Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Potroast Mom. This is Faucet, also known as Sauce. This is Coupon. Can you see Coupon? Also known as Soup. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about all the gorgeous, stunning, perfect baby angels that I've fostered, cats and dogs. No other animals yet. I would be open to, no, I'm not open to lizards. I have to be honest about that. I couldn't do a lizard. A bird? No. I also asked for YouTube feedback on my Instagram, a sentence that would truly kill a pilgrim. And one of the things was, you're not loud enough, so I did buy a microphone. I hope it's working. I hope you can hear me great. If you don't like this, just tell me. I'm open to feedback. Another thing they said was the quality of your camera. So I did, oh, my heater's kicking on. I did order an iPhone 14 Pro Max. That was so much money. Like, that is bananas. But you know, since this is my job, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and write it off on my taxes. Why did I wear black pants when you can see so much cat hair? Anyways, I brought their brushes. Can you hear this? In case they wake up and we can brush them. I got a new brush and it's like a brush for their undercoat. And it works really well, and I'm getting so much hair from that. I am harvesting their hair. I don't know if I've already said this. I am harvesting their hair to make harvesting is probably not the best word, a scarf and a hat. I have a book called Crafting with Cat Hair. Maybe I should aim a little lower for my first craft, but anyways, I have a bunch of it. I'll make a YouTube video of it at some point. Anyways, for fostering. Picture this, the year is 2019, okay? It is the spring of 2019. So I think it was like May of 2019. At this time, I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube. I don't know exactly what you can talk about on YouTube, but I was incredibly addicted, lost in the addiction sauce to Adderall and Xanax. But in September of 2019, I did get sober. So the kind of Venn diagram of fostering and being high, their overlap is teeny tiny, but we will start there. So I'm at work. I'm at my engineering job. I'm not doing it. Okay, and I'm like searching online. I was looking at the local shelter page and I was like, you know what, maybe if I get a third cat, things will kind of turn around for me. I had just gotten out of a very soup mama, a very, very bad relationship. Hello, my soup. Hello. Hello. And you know what, in a way, that led me down a road that did turn things around for me. Anyway, so I see the saddest photos I've ever seen in my life of a cat named Smokey Joe. So I'm like, you know what? After work, I drive to the shelter. I leave work early. I was not supposed to do that, but you're supposed to fill out, well, at least for the shelter that I went to, you're supposed to fill out like an app online, and the foster coordinator wasn't even there that day, but nevertheless, they had so many cats. May, kitten season, like it was in full swing. So, you know, when I spoke to them, I said, hi, I have 2 cats, like I'm interested in fostering Smokey Joe. They said, well, Smokey Joe is available for adoption. That's why he's on the website. And adult cats that are available for adoption are not typically fostered, because we keep them here, and then when, you know, people come to adopt an animal, they see them, and they're much likely to be more interested in a cat they can see and meet that day. And I said, you know what, that makes sense. And she said, but Smokey Joe was brought in by animal control because he had been hit by a car and cracked his pelvis. So he was, you know, had surgery and was healing, but in those little, you know, cages, enclosures at the animal shelter, he wasn't able to get up and stretch a lot. And she said, you know, it might be good for his healing if, you're so cute, Soup. I could die, you're so cute. I love you. Can you purr into the microphone? She's like, you know, we'll make an exception. You can foster Smokey Joe while he heals. So I'm in the back, like filling out the paperwork or whatever. And there's a kitten that is, I'm not exaggerating at all. I'll put a photo of him. he was like this big. And I saw him and I was like, oh my God. And she was like, yeah, it's kitten season. I didn't know about kitten season before that. She was like, he doesn't have a home yet, but he's a singleton. And the thing about singletons is they always have extremely interesting personalities, because cats who are raised by themselves, like, sometimes people call it single cat syndrome. Like I said, they can develop very interesting personalities, because a lot of a cat learning not to bite is by being a kitten who's bitten by other kittens, and they're like, oh, that feels very bad. So anyways, she was like, you know, he has no one to go with. And I was like, oh, okay. Why doesn't he hang out with me and Smokey Joe? Two things I want to stress through this, you know, fostering debacle is that, one, I didn't know a lot going in. I didn't have all the information that I have now, and so I made like mistakes. You know, it was a learning process. And one, my house is, just gonna set the scene for you. My house is 600 square feet. So, you know, when you bring a new animal in, you have to quarantine it from the other animals. And so that has always been kind of difficult for me, because I live in a house that is, and let's all kind of repeat it together, 600 square feet. So when I would quarantine animals, I would just use my bedroom. So like I put Smokey Joe and a Noodle in my bedroom. And then the, you know, pot roast and Carrot had the, don't show your business, Soup. Learn some modesty. I feel like I'm not a good chronological storyteller, so please know that this is me doing my best. Where you go, Soup? Where you go, Soup Mama? Why don't you come lay with Swiss? So anyways, I'll put photos of Smokey Joe and Noodle. They became immediate friends. I hope you can hear them. I love them. Immediate friends. They loved each other so much. Smokey Joe, he took on a kind of, you know, parent-like role, but it was so good for Noodle, because Noodle was able to watch another cat and like learn the behaviors that cats with out moms sometimes don't learn. Fostering them was so fun, but I did not prepare my heart for it, I guess. And so, you know, when Noodle reached 8 weeks old and 2 pounds and I had to go drop him off, I just was like, well, I dropped him off on my birthday and I was just destroyed by it. Like, I was distraught, and I just was so afraid that he would not have an adopter. And he ended up getting neutered and then sent to a Petco, like to be at a kitten in like the, you know, windows at Petco. And he got adopted pretty quickly. I mean, he was a kitten, but it still was just like so, like I said, my heart was not prepared for it. And you know, I had also fallen in love with Smokey Joe, and I'm like, okay, well, there's no way that I can give both of them up. So I ended up adopting Smokey Joe. And at this point, you know, Smokey Joe, he isn't being quarantined anymore. I let him out with Pot Roast and Carrot. Just to address the FIV thing, I did not know that either Pot Roast or Carrot had FIV. They had both tested negative as kittens. It never occurred to me that they would get it as adults. And so if I had known that I had FIV positive cats, I would not have brought another cat in. And like I said, this was a learning process. That was my mistake. Anyways, there's like a little kitten hole in my heart. I'm like, okay, well, it's still kitten season. My birthday's in July. I'm like, you know what? I need more kittens. But I'm thinking this time I'm going to go to a different shelter in the area. So that was my first. I fostered Noodle and Smokey Joe through Kansas City Pet Project. And the next kittens that I fostered came from Great Plains SPCA. They had a different program, a smaller program, and I just liked the way it was set up a little bit more. Years later, I would get Fawcett and Coupon from Great Plains SPCA. Anyways, there were 6 of those kittens. They were the pasta kittens. They were literally so crazy. So Noodle got to me when he was very small, but these kittens, they were already pretty big. I think they were probably like, they had to be like 5 or 6 weeks old when I got them. And you foster a kitten until it is at least 8 weeks old and 2 pounds, and then it is able to be spayed and neutered, and then it can be adopted out of the shelter. Some people really hate that they spay and neuter 2-month-old animals, but don't take it up with me because I'm fully on board with it. The 6 kittens I got, who were 5 or 6 weeks old, they were so crazy. They had been found in a barn, but they were very well socialized to humans. So I don't really know 100% what the story is. And that's kind of like all shelter animals, right? You don't always have the backstory. I was very lucky to be so involved fostering them from so little, you know, and knowing the woman who fostered Coupon's litter first, and to have so much of their backstory. I consider myself very lucky to know all that. So those kittens were named after pasta, an ode to the great noodle, who I loved and missed. So the 6 of them, I'm trying to remember. So it was macaroni, spaghetti, fettuccine, rigatoni, lasagna. I always forget about poor lasagna. Okay, so we had macaroni, lasagna, spaghetti, rigatoni, tortellini, ravioli. They had fleas. They came from a barn and they had fleas, and so they were like, you know, keep them contained in like a small space. And you know, my house was very small, but I did have one of those like very, very big dog crates, and so I kept them in there just while their fleas died, because the fleas just fall off of them, right? And it was very gross. There was so much dirt, and people who foster usually have more space than this because you need it. But look at me, I'm doing my best. And I did not have them for very long because, like I said, they were already 6 weeks old, but they were so fun to be around and they were so crazy. And Great Plains SPCA did take photos of them with their adopters, so I did get to see those photos, so that was very exciting. It's hard to take care of an animal and then have no idea what happens to it, you know? And even when you do know what happens to where the animal is, it can still be very difficult. And that brings us to my favorite animal that I have ever fostered that I did not adopt. Her name, Harriet. The shelter named her Raggedy Ann, which is rude because she, well, first of all, she came in heat. She had horrible skin condition, like she was missing most of the hair all over her body. But this dog, I mean, sweetest girl you've ever met in your life. You've never met a nicer girl. Just, oh my God, I miss this dog so much. This is like the one that got away. I wish I had adopted Harriet so badly. So at the time I was fostering Harriet, that was around the time I was getting sober. So this was an incredibly fragile time in my life. I think I've shared before that getting sober, for me at least, felt like being a raw nerve. Like I didn't know how to react to certain situations. I was not used to being sober and 24/7, you know, and Harriet helped me so much, and I think that's kind of what, you know, led to her having such a special place in my heart. You know, I have enjoyed the animals I have fostered, but some of them you just don't love. I'm looking at you, Trisket. But Harriet, like, I loved her so much. Oh my gosh. And I had Harriet for a long time because Harriet was chill as hell. She did not care about pot roast. Carrot, who was the meanest cow on earth, she did not care about her. And Smokey Joe was cool with Harriet. They were not that different in size. Smokey Joe was like 18 pounds. Harriet was like, she was just over 20 pounds. So that was very cool to see. Gorgeous, picturesque family. And then she got spayed, and then she just got medicated baths like twice a week. I had Harriet for, I want to say it was like almost a year. I definitely held on to her way longer than I should have, but part of fostering animals is, you know, finding them their next home. And so with Harriet, I was posting her on my personal Instagram. I did not have any kind of social media following. This is all to say that posting her on my, you know, very tiny personal account, this woman who was in my sorority in college, who is such a kind, wonderful woman, sent me a message and was like, hey, I've seen this dog on your story and I know that she is up for adoption, and this dog just like, something about her just really calls to me, like, can I meet her? And, you know, they met and they were instantly obsessed with each other. I mean, of course, Harriet is the most magical dog God ever made. And so, you know, she was like, I want her, and she adopted her. But I still just worried about her so much. It's just hard, you know? Harriet especially, that was another animal that Noodle and Harriet were just so hard to let go of, especially Harriet because I had had her for so long. But anyways, Harriet still, I mean, look at her today. Drop dead gorgeous. And because I know that girl, I see Harriet on Instagram and I have that girl's phone number and I get pictures of Harriet, and I'm very, very lucky to get that, to still get to have glimpses of Harriet's life. After Harriet, I was like, you know what, I'd like to foster another dog. So I'm like watching how Kansas City Pet Project does it is they post the animals on Facebook, like on a private fostering Facebook page you get added to. And so I saw this picture of this Chihuahua who was incredibly overweight and this very old cat. And they were like, this is Buddy and Lizzy. They came as a pair. The post did not talk about their history, but they were both senior animals, and Buddy especially was having an incredibly hard time in the shelter, and they said, you know, these need foster immediately. They are a bonded pair. They cannot be separated. And I was like, I would love to take them. So I brought them, and it's actually a very sad story. So Buddy was, I think, 12, and Lizzy was 14, I believe. And they had been, you know, owned their entire life by a very elderly woman. This woman did not take them outside, so Buddy was trained on like potty pads. They're so cute. Can you see them? I would die for them. So this woman had passed away, and she had made, I can't remember if it was a friend or a child, but she had made someone in her life promise to take care of Buddy and Lizzy so they wouldn't go into a shelter when she passed away. Whoever took care of them put them in a room and didn't ever go into the room, just didn't, you know, there could be many, I don't know the exact circumstances around that, but after a while realized, you know what, this isn't right. And so they did bring Buddy and Lizzy to a shelter. And at that point, Buddy had some pretty severe trauma. He, anytime someone came near him, he peed himself. Like, he was so horribly shy and like scared of people. As I bring them home, Lizzy immediately crawls up, like Potroast and the kittens had made holes like in the underside of my box spring. Lizzy immediately crawls up there, checks out. How fun would that be to crawl in some woman's bed spring and just live up there? That'd be gorgeous, in my opinion. So Buddy, it took a really long time to get his trust. I would like hand feed him rotisserie chicken, but he was so sweet, and eventually he like came away from the corner and he like eventually used a potty pad in front of me. I would have to leave the room, and then he would relieve himself on the potty pad and then immediately like go back to the corner. It was very sad, but I just, you know, tried my best to socialize them. They were in foster because of Buddy's anxiety was so intense in the shelter, but they were available for adoption. And a woman pretty quickly saw, you know, they posted them on their public Facebook page, the shelter did, and this woman saw, and she had recently had a senior dog pass, and she was like, you know, I have a 2-bedroom apartment, like I have pet stairs. She has one of those, like, when people have like senior dogs and they don't take them outside, it's like the big thing of grass for them to go potty on. She has one of those, and she was like, you know, my apartment is all set up for senior animals. Like, I'm incredibly patient. Like, I'm single. I just think I would be a really good fit for these two. Can I come meet them? And I was like, yes, absolutely. She comes and meets them. And this was in, I want to say this was in like February or January or February of 2020. And that woman gave them a beautiful life. Like, their life is so happy and gorgeous. And she has sent me pictures. And actually, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Buddy passed away. And that is just so sad. There's been so much pet loss this year. Another animal that I fostered in 2020 that I'll tell you about, she passed away this year as well. And it's just so, this has just been such a terrible year for pet loss. And Noodle the pug just passed away. And this has just been a very, very sad year. But Lizzy the cat is still living with this woman. She is treated like a queen. She just lives a happy, gorgeous little life. And I'm so, I guess, thankful that I got to be a tiny part of their story. She would send me videos like, oh, you know, Buddy's finally letting me pet him, and, you know, Buddy will sit with me on the couch now. And it's just nice that I got to watch their story unfold. And even though it came to a close, I was still happy to have been a part of it. So after Buddy and Lizzy, I fostered my first mom cat. The mom cat was already named when I picked her up from the shelter. Her name was Zoe, I believe. And she had 5 kittens that were nameless. Or I think maybe they gave them names, but I didn't like them. I think that happened with the other 6 kittens too that I named Pasta. They were named after the Rugrats, I think, and I renamed them after Pasta. For this litter of kittens, I did fish. So it was tuna, mahi-mahi, salmon, and trout. They ended up going as a pair. They became Apple and Olive. And tuna, salmon, trout, tilapia. Tuna, salmon, trout, tilapia, mahi-mahi. Did I say all of them? I think I did. And they came, I mean, they were tiny babies. Like, but, you know, with a mom cat, it's less work because she is feeding them and you're just kind of monitoring them to make sure everything's going well. And, you know, I've kind of had a unique experience with kittens. It's very common for kittens to pass away. The first kitten that I had ever had pass away was Bucket this year. And so it kind of, you know, was extremely painful and extremely hard. 1, because I had never had a kitten pass away or seen a kitten pass away. And 2, it came right on the heels of pot roast death. So that was very traumatic, but I was very lucky for, you know, Mama Zoe's litter. They all were healthy. They were all good. I met some really wonderful people through that litter. A woman who is my friend now adopted salmon and trout. And, you know, I remember when she came to my house and she was like, you know, my boyfriend and I just got an apartment. We just graduated. Like, we're so excited. I've always wanted 2 gray kitties. And she actually lives like less than 10 minutes away. So I have gotten to see them many, many times. And that's been very special. And I cat sit for them when they go out of town. And this year, it was right before Easter, I believe, Apple passed away kind of in a freak. They don't really know what happened. She just was, you know, had passed away one morning when they found her. And that's just heartbreaking. You know, that less than 2 years with a kitten, there's just never going to be enough time. You know, I had 7 years with pot roast and it just wasn't enough. It's just never going to be enough. And Tilapia was adopted by a woman who named her Stardust, I think, which is gorgeous and stunning. And the woman who adopted her, you know, when she was still a potential adopter, and she came here to my house to meet Tilapia, she sent the most iconic text of all time. She like had parked in my driveway, and I opened the door and I was like waving at her through the screen door, and she texted me and she was like, I'm going to come in when I finish my ice cream cone and I'm deaf. And I was like, we have a legend on our hands, okay? Literally obsessed with her. And she did take a while to eat her ice cream cone. And it's like, yeah, queen, enjoy it. And she came inside and I don't know sign language, but I also did not use my brain, and she couldn't read my lips because I had a mask on. Like, it was just a disaster. I felt like I really failed that woman, but she ended up adopting her. Anyways, that woman adopted Tilapia, named her Stardust. Kind of the ending to all that. She sent me like one of those MLM texts, like, hey girl, would you like to start an at-home business? And I was like, no, Stardust Mom, I would absolutely not like to do that. Anyways, after that litter, that was so much fun. I fostered this dog named Dirty Ernie. This was around Halloween of 2020, I think. Dirty Ernie was literal filth. He was so dirty. That's another animal. I don't know their backstory. I don't know where he came from. But he was very old. He was a senior dog. And he had like skin problems underneath all of his long fur. I took him one day and he got shaved, and then I had to give him like little, medicated baths, and he ended up being adopted. I did not have him long. I had him for a few weeks. He was adopted by a woman whose husband had passed away, and she was retired and, looking for a companion. And she was like, well, he can have my husband's recliner. I was like, wow. Okay, that's a gorgeous life for a dog to have. I don't even think that woman had a cell phone, and so there's definitely no keeping up with Dirty Ernie, but I do hope he's doing okay. He was such a sweet dog. He was not very shy, but he was just an older dog who just wasn't having it anymore. He was just kind of cranky, and I loved him for it. I absolutely did. Winter of 2020, I didn't foster any animals. January 2021, I start making TikToks of pot roast. She goes viral, has all these people who love her now. And I think to myself, I'm going to foster a dog again. So I started fostering this dog named Coco. I had Coco for 2 days before someone saw her on TikTok and was like, I would love to adopt Coco. We met them. They adopted Coco. They were a very young couple. They were so cute and nice. And I just know they gave Coco a wonderful, gorgeous life. And then immediately after that, I got Glinda. And Glinda, another one of the one that got away. Why didn't I adopt Glinda? The most calm, most angelic, most motherly figure. Glinda had obviously had babies, and they found her in not the greatest area of Kansas City, and the neighbors saw the dog. They saw Glinda standing at the front door of the place she had lived, even though the people had moved out. So they had moved out and left her in the neighborhood. She had given birth very obviously, and so they assumed that these people took the puppies with them. Incredibly sad situation. Glinda was found to have heartworms. She was heartworm positive, and so that's a pretty long and intensive treatment. And so that's why Glinda was with me for a while. She stayed here while she got her heartworm treatment and, mended herself. She also had really terrible skin. She needed a couple medicated baths. And, I made lots of videos of Glinda and shared lots of our life with Glinda. And she was so calm and cool and relaxed. I think she low-key feared Pot Roast, who was so small and calm even in herself, although her glares were scary. I loved Glinda. Oh my gosh. And then Glinda ended up getting adopted by another young couple. They had 3 cats, and they had seen on TikTok Glinda be really good with pot roast. And so, that's a big risk when you adopt a dog, is do they like cats or not? I've been incredibly lucky in that I've had so many dogs who did get along with cats, fostered dogs who did get along with cats. And so these people came to meet her, immediately loved her. Those people have since gotten another dog. Glinda has another dog friend. I'll put the picture, but gorgeous, perfect, happy family. Glinda is another one that was extremely hard for me to let go. We were sitting out on my porch when the people pulled up, and, you know, they went to go put her in the back seat of their car, and I, you know, opened the door to my house, and she tried to follow me inside, and I just was like, you know, obviously after I closed the door, but it's so hard to let them go sometimes, you know? And then, so that was fall of 2021, I believe. And then, you know, winter, February 2022, Potroast passed away. And then it was in March 2022 that I started fostering Fawcett's litter. And we know how that ended up. So I fostered her litter with Mama Microwave. Perfect Angels. I have videos with them. I love them. I miss them. Next, I started fostering Coupon's litter. Coupon is about 5 or so weeks younger than Fawcett. Coupon's litter contained Triscuit. And there are litters that, or there are animals that you foster that you're like, look at me, I love you. But I'm very excited for the day you leave this home. I am. And Triscuit was definitely one of those. I think a lot of people saw how she was the star in a lot of my videos, and I think that they thought that meant that, you know, she was such a character that I wanted to be a part of my home. But I was more just like, she's such a character, right? And total by happenstance, you know, the woman who adopted Triscuit ended up seeing me on Instagram. That the same thing happened with Pretzel, the person who now has Pretzel. Pretzel is now Moss. They also found me via Instagram, and, you know, could see baby pictures of them and smaller pictures of them. And anyways, you know how I ended up with these two. After that, I did try this summer fostering 2 more dogs. I tried to foster a dog named Bonnie. Bonnie was not down with cats, even though Bonnie was an angel living on earth. She was so stinking sweet. And then the dog I fostered after that was named Potato Julie. And, well, her name was Julie, but I called her Potato Julie. She was not a bad dog. She was not a bad dog. When I speak about Potato Julie, I don't want to make any of this sound like it was her fault, because none of it was her fault. She had been returned to the shelter twice. So the first time she was adopted by a couple, and then the couple got divorced, and instead of like one of them keeping her, they just returned her to the shelter. I don't really understand that. And then she was adopted, and she was with people for like a long time, like years. And then these people had a baby, and the baby was allergic to dogs, and so they just handed her back to the shelter. And that makes me so mad. She was incredibly anxious. She did not understand what was happening, and it's like, yeah, that would be incredibly confusing if your very, very loving family just dropped you off and peaced out. Maybe I'm not being fair to those people, but it was not fair to Potato Julie. Like I said, none of this is her fault, but she was very reactive, not to the cats, but to other dogs and to any new people that we saw. And one thing about me is my anxiety is sky high at all times. Like, I'm always so anxious, and my nervous system around Potato Julie was just always kind of on alert, which is an exhausting place to be. And I also have some pretty intense, like, sensory issues. And you're like, what? No, I'm shocked. I know. And her, like, barking was so loud. It was like, I have an extremely hard time with loud sounds. And you know, there were just several reasons why this was not the best foster home for Potato Julie. Potato Julie is a wonderful dog. I just could not, this just was not the right foster home for her. But I believe she has since been adopted, which is very exciting. I would love to know where she is, but you don't always get the answers, you know? You just have to hope for the best, I suppose. Anyways. You probably can't see it from here, but Faucet's armpit hair is so curly and gorgeous. Okay. All right, I'll pluck your negativity. This one. Put it in Faucet's curly armpit hair. Surely it'll get lost in there. Okay, brain scratch. Okay, love you, bye.